above all kings, above all nations and all created things, above all wisdom and all the ways of man. You were here before the world began. Above all kingdoms, above all thrones, above all wonders the world will ever know, above all wealth and treasure, there's no way to measure what you're worth. You are rejected and alone, like a rose, trampled on the ground. He took the fall and called me above all. Above all powers, above all kings, above all.
It's good to have friends. Amen. We got Mary and Bethany and Caiaphas and Pilate. We even had a conversation and got Jesus in. And Mary and Magdalene. Amen. These are some friends of mine. I don't tell people, everybody I know. And Mary of Bethany, as we will find recorded in Matthew 26, verses 6 through 13, it says very clearly that meanwhile Jesus was in Bethany at the home of Simon, a man who had previously had leprosy. And while he was eating, a woman came in with a beautiful alabaster jar of expensive perfume and poured it on his head. The disciples were indignant when they saw this. What a waste, they said. It could have been sold for a high price and the money given to the poor. But Jesus, somebody say, but Jesus. But Jesus, aware of this, replied, why criticize this woman for doing such a good thing to me? You will always have the poor among you. You will always have the poor among you. You will always have the poor among you. But you will not always have me. She has poured this perfume on me to prepare my body for burial. I tell you the truth. Whenever the good news is preached throughout the world, this woman's deed will be remembered and discussed. Let's hear the vantage point of Mary of Bethany.
You may not know me, but you know me. And by the end of my vantage point, you will remember me. I am Mary of Bethany. Bethany is located 2 miles from Jerusalem. It's named the city of misery, house of the poor. Wealth is not common in Bethany. However, I consider myself rich because of my love for Jesus. See, I come from a family who loves Jesus also. I am the sister of Martha and Lazarus. You may remember Martha. She ran to Jesus after our brother had been dead for 4 days and told him, if you had been here, my brother would not have died. And Jesus responded, I am the resurrection and the life. The one who believes in me will live, even though they die. And he asked Martha, do you believe this? And she said, yes, I believe you are the Messiah, Son of God, who has come into the world. Then she ran back and told me that Jesus wanted to see me. So I ran with her, and when we got to the tomb, Jesus said, remove the stone from the tomb. And he called out my brother's name. He said, Lazarus, come forth. And Lazarus came forth. My brother who was dead is now alive. So you see that our family loves Jesus. Not because of what he did, but because of who he is. So when I heard he was back in Bethany again at the house of Simon the leper with his disciples, I grabbed my most expensive perfume and ran to him. You see, it was 6 days before the Passover. A very busy time of food and fellowship, about like now in your time, Easter time. You know, Simon's house was filled with many people. When people heard that Jesus was there, I guess they wanted to see this miracle worker. Oh, but everybody there wasn't happy and excited about Jesus. There were the Pharisees and this high priest Caiaphas who really didn't believe that Jesus was the Son of God. They were always plotting to harm Jesus, and when they heard about the resurrection of Lazarus, I'm sure this upset them even more. See, this kind of made me afraid because the Pharisees was very strict of where a woman's place is. See, but my love for Jesus was stronger than my fear. See, as I stepped through the door, I saw him. I saw Jesus. It was a radiance about him that filled the room. His voice spoke with authority and passion all at the same time. The face of each disciple was drawn to every word. Their face was filled with such awe. Oh, as they gazed at him, their faces was that of a statue, frozen in time. Then there was Peter. You know Peter, the one that seemed to love Jesus just as much as I do. Oh, when I saw him, I kind of chuckled because he was so excited. It seemed as though he couldn't sit still. But I kept taking the next step to move closer to Jesus. Doubts began to fill my heart as if I didn't belong. I was there amongst the Pharisees who point out how inappropriate I was to enter a space of a man without permission and then to approach a man without covering for my hair. This was very uncommon for a woman. And then, get this, the leaders brought out that I was a woman. Really? But that I was a woman full of sin. But nothing could stop me at this point. I carried in my hand this very beautiful alabaster jar filled with expensive perfume. Now this perfume was the price of a year's wages, but being from a place of a house of poor, you say, how did I get this? The love of Jesus. I saved it for the perfect time. This perfume was meant for kings and high priests. So I gave my best to my king, to my high priest, my Jesus. He is worth more than the most costly thing I possess. Oh, thank you, Jesus. When I got to the place where Jesus was, I broke open the jar and I began to pour it over his head, anointing him. The aroma filled the room just like Jesus' radiance. You know, I'm sure that if no one paid any attention to me, they did now with the scent in their nose. They was very, oh my God. Then I heard the disciples mumbling. They was very upset about me using my expensive perfume. But there was one disciple who decided to speak up. It was Judas. Yeah, and of all people, he said, what a waste. It could have been used for a high price and the money given to the poor. My heart dropped. I could not say a word. All I could do was weep at Jesus' feet and wipe his feet with my hair. See, for a second, I thought Jesus would agree with him. After all, Jesus always wants us to help one another, particularly those who can't help themselves. Then I couldn't believe the words that was coming out of his mouth. Jesus said, why criticize this woman for doing such a good thing to me? He took up for me. Jesus is my refuge. He didn't care about what the Pharisees would say. He didn't care what the disciples thought. He cared about me. The Lord Almighty, he spoke up and I didn't have to say a word. Jesus didn't have nothing. Judas at this time didn't have nothing to say about that. You see, Jesus came to my defense. He's my protector and my shield. And when the disciples tried to interfere with my worship, when Judas tried to hinder my worship, even when the Pharisees tried to stop it, Jesus became my shelter. And he hid me under his shadow. Hallelujah. 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 Jesus said, I came so that I will anoint his body, prepare his body for worship. Now, I don't know what's about to happen, but I know God favors Jesus. I wanted people to see Jesus like I did. But the one thing that blew my mind, I was not able to move. I became frozen in time like the disciples. Jesus continued by saying, wherever the good news is preached throughout this world, this woman's deed will be remembered and discussed. Oh, I almost lost my mind. Me, a woman full of sin, forgiven, a woman from a place of poverty and misery is now rich. Hallelujah. To know that your good deed will be associated with Jesus Christ. Only a God of passion and love can bring such favor. My good deed shall be remembered and discussed. When people laugh at you, they look down on you, they push you aside. We know about the denying or abandonment, neglect, hurt, and definitely betrayal. Don't you know that Jesus will restore you? He will give you back what they taken from you. See, he remembers your good deeds and he restores you. See, Jesus, he looked upon my misery and he gave me mercy. He brings you back to life by sacrificing his life for yours. So wherever the good news is preached throughout the world, see, I told you, you will remember me. I, Mary of Bethany's good deeds shall be remembered and talk about. You can talk about me. Because of my love for him, my life is revealed in him. And when Christ is revealed to the whole world, I, Mary of Bethany, shall share in his glory. That's my vantage point.
What we've heard from Mary of Bethany. Let's see what Caiaphas has to say. Because Matthew lets us know in Matthew 26, 57 through 68. Then the people who had arrested Jesus led him to the home of Caiaphas, the high priest, where the teachers of religious law and the elders had gathered. Meanwhile, Peter followed him at a distance and came to the high priest's courtyard. He went in and sat with the guards and waited to see how it would all end. Inside, the leading priest and the entire high council were trying to find witnesses who would lie about Jesus so they could put him to death. But even though they found many who agreed to give false witness, they could not use anyone's testimony. Finally, two men came forward who declared, this man said, I am able to destroy the temple of God and rebuild it in 3 days. Then the high priest stood and said to Jesus, well, aren't you going to answer these charges? What do you have to say for yourself? But Jesus remained silent. Then the high priest said to him, I demand in the name of the living God, tell us if you are the Messiah, the Son of God. Jesus replied, you have said it. And in the future you will see the Son of Man seated in a place of power at God's right hand and coming on clouds of heaven. Then the high priest tore his clothing to show his horror and said, blasphemy. Why do we need other witnesses? You have all heard his blasphemy. What is your verdict? Guilty, they shouted. He deserves to die. Then they began to spit in Jesus' face and beat him with their fist. And some slapped him, jeering, "Prophesy to us, Messiah, who hit you that time?" Caiaphas.
See, this is the kind of things that this Jesus is stirring up. Now, Mary takes a year's salary on a fragrance only to pour it on his head. Now, to what purpose can this be explained? Does this act propel Mary into God's eye? Does it grant Mary special treatment? You see, I raise these questions in lieu of the assumption Jesus is who he says he is. Now, if nothing is done about this Occupy Jesus movement and get it under control, we are going to have some problems with the populace. Now, these laws that we have, y'all may not like it, but they are in place to maintain a level of order and peace. Now, there has to be a way to get this Jesus in front of me so that he can give an account of this preposterous claim. Now, it's been said that he taught his disciples and the people that gathered to hear him preach and teach that they should do what we Pharisees teach, but not to do what we do, because we do not do what we teach. So just in case you missed it, we want you to do as we say, and Jesus says don't do it just as we say, but definitely don't do as we do, because we do not do what we preach. Yeah, this Jesus, he says that we Pharisees we already have a lot to deal with the stiff-necked people. Now here comes this high and mighty Jesus and just disrupting everything, and on top of all of that, he has the audacity to call us Pharisees hypocrites. One thing is for certain, I cannot go about this apprehension of Jesus during the Passover. If I do that, these folk may act a muck in here and start rioting. But wait. What do we have here? Judas Iscariot. Well, for those of you who are unaware, he is one of Jesus' disciples. He has come forward and proposed to this council, how much will you give me to betray him? Oh, this is perfect. Now, let me remind you, he has been with Jesus while he was preaching and teaching. He was with Jesus when he was healing and feeding the hungry and ministering to the poor. But yet Judas was there somewhere in the midst. But for all the miracles that he experienced, allegedly, Judas has come to access himself to us to say, what will you give me to hand him over to you? In other words, Judas now is a turncoat. Well, let's look at this. Here is what I take from this. Jesus should have taken a more discreet inventory over the people that he has around him. Jesus perhaps should investigate all the people that he included in his circle. See, the very people that benefit from being in your company may be the same people that are secretly plotting against you to gain a greater benefit if they turn on you. Well, maybe let's take it a step further. Perhaps Jesus should have had a more extensive background check should have been performed. Or maybe he should have had some character references or something of that sort. Maybe he should have requested all of that to see who it is that he will be discipling with. Well, I can see from my vantage point that this Judas character is clearly driven by his own selfish intentions. He wants to get all he can, and then he can all he gets. But guess what? Do you really know who is truly for you? Well, listen to this. What they doing now, smiling in your face, all the while trying to take your place. Yes, we had to put come to your time and get a little OJ's anointing on that thing. Now, but note this. Why was his arrest so easily obtained? Why would one of his very own disciples agree to hand him over to us for such a meager price? Now I ask you, is it possible that he, Judas, does not believe in this Jesus of Nazareth such as I? Well, nevertheless, question as you may, I will get to the bottom of this. You see, I will discover that this Jesus character is not who he say he is. Now, we had a signal, on a prearranged signal, a kiss on the cheek from Judas to arrest him. Now, imagine the shame of it all, a king betrayed by one of his own with a kiss. Now, this Judas fella is gutsy at best. He has brought before me in my quarters, and the council has already been assembled. Yeah, I called my boys while they was assembling Jesus, trying to arrest him. I called all my boys together. Then I got the guards and the bailiffs in place to maintain civility, because this is a courtroom. Now, witnesses have been subpoenaed and they have been sworn in, and we are ready for their testimony. As I am about to start, this one thought occurred. It's in the midst of transport of bringing Jesus to me, I did not see a crowd assemble in protest after his arrest. I did not see any signage expressing their discontent with any inequality issues or wrongdoing by me or my counsel. I did not see any delinquent rioting and destruction of property, and because of their inability to express orally their dismay with the current feeling of social or religious injustice. Even them doing that would have been understandable, because it would have showed us, maybe, just maybe, that we have made a mistake. Maybe we have the wrong man. And also, did nobody shed not a tear. However, there was one reaction. One of his followers did ring up a sword and just cut my man it clean off. But to which I'm told, Jesus picked his ear up and healed him right there. So even at his arrest, and he somehow or another managed to pull off this miraculous feat, Judas still decides to go on through with the betrayal. And the other disciples that were there or in the area did not say a word. They didn't throw a rock. They didn't cuss. They didn't scream. They didn't do anything to stop what was happening. Let me ask you, if they are this passive and this silent at such a time as this, when they desperately are needed to be the opposite, then why would I believe that they would do or be anything more when things are less tense? What would propel me to follow Jesus based on what I saw in his disciples? Now, if Jesus has the very ones that have followed him from the onset of his ministry do nothing when they need him the most. Now there are, I couldn't get any witnesses. There are no witnesses for Jesus that have assembled on his behalf. In fact, I don't even see his legal representation here to argue his case. There is absolutely no one but this Jesus and me. I searched for as many witnesses as I could that would testify to the fact that this man was an imposter. Though I had found many, for some reason or another, their testimony was not admissible. Couldn't get them to say the same thing every time, all the time. Yeah, y'all laugh. That's a minor setback. I got some other stuff, though. Well, I found two men that finally came forward and declared that Jesus did indeed state, I am able to destroy the temple of God and rebuild it in 3 days. Now I ask you, what more proof do I need? I turn to Jesus to simply ask him, what say you about these allegations? He answered me not a word. The nerve of this Jesus guy. Does he not know who stands before him? And I am only moments away from convicting him, and he dares not answer me, the high priest? But as I ponder all of this and how all of this came about, I was struck with yet another thought. I have not seen evidence where any of this has affected him. Now the pressure has not brought about any fear or desperation. through it all, he still maintains his perseverance. And if I could come to your time, I would believe that if some of you were in some pressing situations, I suspect if you act like this Jesus guy acting before I try to convict him, you might overcome a few things right in through that. Is where you missed your shot, but it doesn't matter because I'm going to convict this Jesus anyway. I'm just trying to help some of y'all who believe in this guy. But I digress. So, I ask this Jesus one more time, in the name of the true and living God, tell us now if you are the Messiah, the Son of God. Jesus finally replies, but only with, you have said it. He further implicates himself when he proclaims that we will see the Son of God seated in the place of power at God's right hand and coming on the clouds of heaven. I am shocked above words, to say the least, but admittedly discouragement lingered at first because I have tried all that I have and know to bring Jesus down to his knees for him to cease and desist with this rhetoric about being the Son of God, but nothing worked. I had nothing that would stick to him. Certainly not with these aforementioned witnesses that we just talked about, but now I got him. I got him now. Out of his own mouth, he has declared that he is God's equal. Now that is blasphemy, signed, sealed, and delivered. I got it. There is nothing else for me to do. There's nothing else for me to prove because he has helped me convict him. Now, before I go, let me leave you with this. Now, some of y'all are sitting in judgment of me. Y'all may not know that I actually believe in God. But I don't believe in this Jesus guy. See, my view of the Almighty God does not include Jesus. Well, that's my time. There is nothing further for me to prove here. I can't do anything else, so it might as well send him to who somebody can do something with.
Alone. I suffered through a terrible nightmare about him last night. Meanwhile, the leading priests and the elders persuaded the crowd to ask for Barabbas and to be released and for Jesus to be put to death. So the governor asked again, which of these two do you want me to release to you? The crowd shouted back, Barabbas. Pilate responded, then what should I do with Jesus, who is called the Messiah? They shouted back, crucify him. Why? Pilate demanded. What crime has he committed? But the mob roared even louder, crucify him. Pilate saw that he wasn't getting anywhere, that the riot was developing, so he sent for a bowl of water, washed his hands before the crowd, saying, I am innocent of this man's blood. The responsibility is yours.
I'm really trying to figure out why I've been asked to be a panel of people to talk about this Jesus. I understand y'all trying to be different with this vantage point, the Jesus experience thing, but I know it's a major event in history. The fact of the matter is, I really did.